The trial. No one escapes. Hey, night listener. Tonight, we enter the shadows. The rain's been falling since dusk, drumming on the courthouse skylights like fingers tapping out a warning. Each drop streaks the windows like smeared ink, and the yellow glow of the emergency exit sign is the only thing that doesn't flicker in this cracked cathedral of justice. You sit back in your chair, letting the damp chill crawl under your collar. Your breath fogs the glass as you stare out into the city, waiting. Footsteps echo through the marble halls, not hurried, not hesitant, measured. If this story found you, maybe it's because you've been followed too. They call your name. You nod. It's time to take your place. Not in the gallery, not on the witness stand. The jury box, third row, seat 7. Direct line of sight to the accused and to everyone who thinks they've seen the truth. So, before we vanish into this mystery, like the video and subscribe only if you can handle the truth buried beneath the lies. Comment below, where are you listening from, and what draws you in more, the truth, the thrill, or the justice? Now, lock your doors, take a deep breath, and follow me into the dark. 12 of you, all strangers, or so they think. The judge says this is just a case like any other, open and shut. No cameras, no headlines, just a cold murder from a hot summer, 6 months ago. But you know better, because when the defendant is led in, cuffed and calm, you feel your stomach twist. It's not recognition, it's instinct. He looks scared, but someone else looks interested. One of your fellow jurors, the 3, leans forward, lips twitching at the corner, like he's reading a private joke no one else understands. You can't explain it, not yet, but you don't like his eyes. Cold, patient, like he's seen this whole performance before. You don't speak during the opening arguments. You're watching the others instead. Every juror, catalogued, memorized. One man taps his pen exactly 5 times before every break. Another writes in a leather-bound notebook not issued by the court. But the man in seat 3, he just watches. Every word, every tick, every hesitation. You wonder if he's listening to the lawyers or studying the defendant like prey. When the prosecution presents the murder weapon, a rusted folding knife found near a drainage pipe, the man in seat 3 doesn't blink. You catch a glimpse of something in his hand, a chain, a broken clasp, a locket, but not the kind you'd expect from someone called for jury duty, the kind you'd expect to find at a crime scene or in a victim's throat. You lean back, trying not to draw attention. Your fingers trace the edge of your chair, wood worn smooth by years of verdicts. And then you ask yourself the question no one ever wants to ask during a murder trial. What if the killer isn't on trial? What if he's already in the room, sitting 2 seats away, ruling the outcome, molding the story? You watch him as the judge calls a recess. He doesn't rise immediately, just smiles to himself, finally blinking, and before he leaves, he drops something into the gap beneath his chair. You don't move. Not yet. You wait until everyone's gone. Then you lean forward, reach down. It's a slip of torn notebook paper. 4 words scribbled in tight, neat letters. He didn't kill her. And below it, but I did. 12 voices, 1 lie. The note is gone by morning. You check twice, once before roll call, again while everyone stands for the judge. Nothing under the chair now, but dust and faint scuff marks from expensive shoes. You replay the handwriting in your mind. Clean, cold, no flourish, no fear. Whoever wrote it didn't expect to be caught, or maybe they wanted to be. The man in seat 3 catches your glance. He doesn't smile this time. He just blinks slowly, once like a signal or a challenge. Testimony resumes. The medical examiner is on the stand. Calm, clinical. You try to focus on his words, but your ears feel full of water. Every word muffled except one overkill. The body had 34 stab wounds. The prosecution wants you to think this was personal, but the defendant claims he didn't even know the victim, and somehow you believe him. You glance across the box. Seat 3 doesn't blink this time. He's watching the examiner like he's taking notes no one else will ever read. The judge calls for sidebar. Noise dies. You feel the air shift. One of the older jurors' women in seat 9 leans toward you. Something's off, she whispers. That man 3, he asked me last night if I thought she deserved it. Who says that? You want to agree. You want to tell her what you found yesterday, but something holds you back. Not fear, instinct. What if he wants you to speak up? What if this is part of his game? Back in the deliberation room, you watch as the others trickle in. Juror 6 hums under his breath. Juror 11 flips through an outdated paperback. Juror 3 sits quietly, folding and unfolding a corner of his coat sleeve. You remember something from the note, the phrase, "He didn't kill her." If that's true, then everything the prosecution's building is hollow. You look to the corkboard where key details are posted: timeline, weapon, location. You stare at the timeline again. It doesn't fit. The murder happened at 10:32 p.m. The defendant clocked out from work at 10:09. But the security cam placing him outside the bar doesn't light up until 10:47. Too much dead time. Too much precision. Too much like someone built a perfect gap, and no one's asking about what could have happened during it, except maybe you and someone else. You notice seat 3 has scribbled something on the back of the jury instructions. You glance when he steps away to the restroom. It's not legal notes. It's a list of names, each one crossed out, except one Abigail. You don't recognize it from the case file. But then you remember something. In the pre-trial notes, there was mention of a witness who never showed. A friend of the victim, Abigail, vanished before questioning. Dead hiding. No one followed up. You check the court-issued binder again. Abigail's statement is missing from the public version. Redacted. But the man in seat 3 knows her name. And if he crossed it off the list, you suddenly realize you've been staring too long. He's back, watching you read his notes. He doesn't hide them. He flips the paper over and writes something new. Bold, in sharp strokes. Some lies take 12 mouths to echo. Then he winks. You feel sick. The air feels colder now, like it's peeling back something. You push away from the table. Pretending to check the water machine, you catch your reflection in the steel. You look like a juror. You act like one. But inside, you know you're not just here for the trial. You're here to find the truth no one else wants to see. The juror with no past. You ask the bailiff for a roster. Juror names aren't public during the trial. He tells you, but he's lying because you've been on juries before. Because you know the bailiff always has a printout. Because that's what they use to make sure the 12 voices still show up. You smile, say you're just trying to remember someone's last name. He shrugs and slides it across the desk like it's no big deal. You read through the list. Juror 1, Evelyn Brighton. Juror 2, Malik Owens. Juror 3, name missing. Just a line, like someone forgot to fill it in, or someone erased it too well. You don't panic. You flip the sheet over. Try to scan the footnote. Maybe there's a redaction note or clerical explanation, but all you see is a faint smudge where his name should be. A drag mark in black ink. You walk back to the deliberation room slower this time. The fluorescent hallway humming above. like it knows something you don't. Inside, the room feels heavier than before. Juror 3 is already seated, flipping casually through the court's daily briefing packet, like he's reading it for the first time, but his eyes don't scan like a new reader. They rest, linger. He knows it already. You sit opposite him, fold your arms, then, like a reflex, you ask, "You ever done this before?" His eyes flick toward you. A pause. "Done what? This you say?" "Jury duty." He tilts his head, smile crooked. "A few times. It's a lie." You nod. "You ever serve foreman?" "Once." He says, "But it wasn't justice." Another pause. Then he turns the question. "And you don't answer. Because you're too busy trying to remember where else you've seen that face. And then you do. Not in person, in the archives. An old case file. Before this trial. Before this town. Back when you worked the courthouse mailroom and used to sneak looks at the case folders jurors left behind. You remember the photo? It was grainy, but there was no mistaking it. One of the jurors in the 2019 missing persons trial had that same tilt in the nose, same burn scar at the jawline. It was him, Juror 3, then and now. You dig up the photo later, on your break, in the library computer terminal. There it is. Trial people v. Shaw. Victim unknown female, presumed dead. Jury hung. Juror 8 name redacted. Photo partially blacked. But enough of the face is left, and there's something even worse in the caption. Juror 8 voted not guilty. Case was never retried. You sit there in front of the terminal for too long enough that the librarian taps her pen beside you. Closing in 5, you nod, print the file, and slip it into your coat. You walk back through the night streets. Slick pavement, dim storefronts. Every face passing, you might know something. Your phone buzzes. Unknown number. No caller ID. You answer anyway. No voice. Just a recording. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. You freeze, because that's what Juror 3 said during deliberation today, right after the foreman mentioned the victim's diary. But the diary hadn't been brought up publicly yet, only in sealed chambers, which means he's seen it. Or worse, he wrote in it. Back in your room. You lock the door, sit on the edge of the bed, take the photo from your coat, and compare it to the face you'll see again tomorrow morning. Same scar, same stare, same juror, different trial. And you ask yourself, what kind of man keeps getting called for jury duty? What kind of man makes sure he's on the jury? Every time someone disappears, the missing photograph, morning brings nothing but fog. It rolls in thick off the courthouse steps, swallowing streetlights and faces alike. You arrive early, an hour before roll call. The hallways still echoing with the vacuum hum of janitors who don't ask questions. You slip into the evidence gallery. You're not supposed to be here, but rules are only useful if someone's watching. And today, no one is there. Behind the glass photographs, arranged neatly on a corkboard, the crime scene, the alley, the bloodied curb, the torn shirt sleeve caught in a rusted fence, and next to it, an empty pinhole. There was a photo there. You know it because the chalk outline still surrounds the space. A light grease shadow remains, and the label taped below reads Exhibit C4. Personal item recovered from purse. No image, no item, just absence. You glance at the logbook. The last person to check out the evidence binder was the prosecution's aide 3 days ago. But the aide testified yesterday that Exhibit C4 wasn't admissible due to chain of custody problems. You smell the lie. You feel it in your gut. the way you feel the cold seeping into the room. You slip away just as the clerk's heels click into the gallery behind you. Back in the jury box, you scan the faces. Juror 3 is already seated, and he's wearing something new today. A pin, small, silver, just above the breast pocket. You can't be sure, but it looks like a cameo. A woman's profile, old, worn, just like the one described in the original police statement as missing from the victim's purse. It clicks. He didn't steal the photo. He stole what it was showing. You lean forward slightly. He doesn't notice. He's tracing something into the condensation on his water bottle with his thumb. Letters ELLI. You don't see the last one before the judge enters. Gavel, order, monotone introductions. You stop hearing the words because now there's a timeline to decode. You flip through your court notes, recheck the witness testimony. A neighbor claimed she heard the victim arguing with someone the night before she died. Said she thought the name she heard was Elliot, but the court dismissed it, said it was inconclusive. And then you look back at the juror's condensation message, ELLI. Was he signaling something or confessing? You glance over again. The pin is gone, just like the photo, just like Exhibit C4. You write something at the top of your notepad. What if he's collecting back in deliberation? The talk is small. The foreman wants to move the conversation toward intent. Juror 6 says the murder weapon looks too deliberate. Juror 9 wants to know why the blood evidence was limited. No one mentions the missing evidence. No one but you. You speak softly. What happened to C4? Blank stares. A shrug from the foreman. Juror 3 doesn't even look up. You press further. The photograph? The one from the victim's purse. Now he looks straight at you. And for the first time, he speaks without pretense. There was no photograph. Simple, final, and that's how you know he took it. Because only someone who's already seen it would dare to say it never existed. That night, you slip the jury roster under your pillow and sleep like a detective with a loaded gun beside the bed. Because this isn't a trial anymore. It's a performance. And someone in the audience is rewriting the script one piece of missing evidence at a time. A question that wasn't asked. You wake with the distinct feeling that someone stood outside your door last night. Not footsteps, not noise, just a tension in the air, like your shadow stretched farther than it should have. In court, the prosecution calls a new witness, the building super from the victim's apartment. Middle-aged, nervous, keeps tugging at his sleeve like it's hiding something underneath. He talks about the night of the murder, how the lights in the hallway flickered, how he passed a man coming down the stairwell. He had a limp. The super says, right foot dragged slightly. Juror 3 taps his knee twice. You clock it. He's left-handed. You notice that on day 1 when he scribbled something upside down. But today, he's drawing something with his right hand. A spiral, tight, methodical. You don't believe in coincidence. Your gaze drops to his shoes. New, polished, but one of them scuffed on the toe, right side, like someone dragged it against concrete. Repeatedly, you glance back at the super. He pauses before adding, he wore gloves, but I saw something silver flash at his collar when he passed. I thought it was a necklace. You freeze. You've seen that glint? Not on the defendant, on the juror in seat 3. And you know what's worse. The prosecution doesn't follow up. They never ask what the necklace looked like. They never ask about the limp again, because it doesn't help their narrative. But it helps yours. You jot down 3 words. Wrong man. Again. During lunch break. You take the long route around the courthouse. You find a public records kiosk. It's slow, ancient, You search past jury rosters. You find 6 cases in the last 4 years where jury member photos were redacted after the trial. 4 of them hung, 2 were acquittals. All involved a juror with a burn scar on the lower jawline. You stare at the pattern until it stops feeling like one. He's been planting himself in trials, not just observing, altering. You return to deliberation with a cold knot in your stomach. Juror 3 is already there, reading again from the court binder. Only this time, something is missing from the table. His notebook. Every juror has one, issued by the court. Done, spiral bound, but his is gone. You don't point it out. You ask yourself, where does a man like him go to rewrite the truth? Later, you check your locker. There's a note, folded into your coat pocket, same handwriting as the torn slip from day 1. Ask what she saw before she died. You read it again. She, not he. A witness, someone the prosecution hasn't called, someone who maybe never made it to trial, or someone kept from testifying. You remember the pre-trial roster. A missing name? Abigail? You start to wonder if the killer is on the jury. Then who did he silence to get here? Who did he need gone so he could play innocent among the 12? And then you realize this whole case might not be about the defendant. It's about what the jury is being steered away from. What if the truth wasn't just lost? What if someone made sure it never stood a chance? The clock that ticked backward. There's a clock on the deliberation room wall. Cheap, battery powered, always a little too fast. Except today. Today it's ticking backward. You stare at it for a full minute before anyone else arrives, each second pulling you in reverse. 10:02, 10:01, 10:00. It clicks again. 9:59. You blink and look away. The bailiff walks in, doesn't notice, doesn't care, drops off the lunch menus and leaves like this is any other case, like the seconds aren't unwinding one by one. You rise slowly, reach up and pull the clock from the wall. It's not broken. It's been tampered with. The minute gears been reversed deliberately, not by accident, not where. Someone wanted time to move the wrong way. You turn it over. Something is scratched into the plastic with a paper clip or a pin. You can't undo what never stopped. You don't say a word. You return the clock to the wall, set it right, and step back just in time to catch Juror 3 entering the room. He glances at the wall once, sees the clock, doesn't smile, doesn't frown. He nods, like he's satisfied you noticed. And that scares you more than anything, because now you know he's watching the room like a maze he's already memorized. Testimony continues that afternoon. This time, it's a forensic analyst. She goes over fibers, blood traces, how the victim had dog hair on her coat. But the defendant doesn't own a dog. You think that matters, a Juror 3 says later. Back in deliberation, dogs are everywhere. Everyone murmurs, moves on. But he's wrong. You know it matters, because you remember something from the early police statements, an unprocessed bark recording from a neighbor's outdoor camera. A bark right before the scream. You pull out your binder, flip to the audio timeline. The defense never brought it up. No one followed up, except one note from the defense team. A single line in the margin. We never got the footage. Chain broken. Same as the missing photo. Same as Exhibit C4. It's all unraveling now. Backwards, like the clock. You excuse yourself to the hallway. The buzz of fluorescent lights above you pulses in sync with your heartbeat. You call the courthouse clerk's office. You ask quietly if any exhibits were requested for private review. The clerk hesitates, then mutters, "That should go through the judge." "But did it?" you ask. Silence. Then, one item was pulled for juror clarification. Exhibit F12. You freeze. That was the recording. It was never replayed in court, never shown. Only one juror requested it. She doesn't say who, but you don't need her to, because when you return, Juror three's notebook is back, closed, but there's a smudge on the cover, a paw print, small, as if pressed there accidentally, but nothing about him is accidental. You write a line across your own notes. He's recreating her last moments that night, back in your room. Your phone rings again. No caller ID. This time, there's a voice, familiar, soft. You're getting close. It says, then it hangs up. You stare at the screen and realize the call came from inside the courthouse. The note. Beneath the seat, you switch chairs. No one notices. Not the foreman, not the judge, not Juror 3. You claim your usual spot was too close to the vent, but what you're really doing is sitting in his seat, the one he's used for every deliberation. Break since the trial began. Juror 3 arrives late today, 5 minutes past the bell. No apology. He just stares at you, sitting there, then chooses a different chair, farther from the wall, closer to the clock. You lean back, let your fingers drift beneath the seat lip, and there it is, folded, taped, hidden. A scrap of yellow legal pad creased at the corners, stained with what smells like ink or something darker. You peel it free carefully, flatten it beneath your binder, and read the jagged words, "She saw me." She screamed once, no second scream, and beneath it, nobody looks at the man who listens. You sit still for a full 30 seconds, trying to slow your breathing, because that phrase, "no second scream," matches the phrase used in the original detective's summary report, word for word, a phrase never read aloud in court, only seen in sealed evidence, which means Juror 3 either was the man at the scene or someone who's had access to more than just the case file. You fold the note, slip it into your coat lining. You don't tell anyone, not yet, because you're learning how he works now. He listens, he mimics, he infects the room. When testimony resumes, you catch something subtle. The defendant's eyes dull for most of the trial, flicker with something sharp when Juror 3 stands up to stretch, recognition, or fear. You start watching the defendant too. He's not looking at the witnesses. He's not pleading his case. He's watching Juror 3, like a man watching his own executioner. During a recess, you approach the vending machine alone. Slide your coin in. It sticks, and behind you, you hear it, his voice, quiet and close. You won't find what you're looking for in a candy bar. You turn. He's already walking away, but on the machine's coin return tray, there's something else, a key, tiny, rusted, numbered 314. It doesn't belong to the courthouse. You pocket it and wonder what it opens. Back in deliberation, you raise a question no one's dared ask yet. Do we think the killer might not be the defendant? Silence. Then pushback. Juror 6 frowns. What are you saying I'm saying? You reply slowly. What if this trial was built around the wrong man? Juror 3 smiles now. Small, almost imperceptible, like a chess player who's let you think you're catching up. And that's when you remember something else from earlier. The missing chain of custody for Exhibit F12. The clerk said one juror requested private review. What if he's been planting more than just doubt? What if he's been substituting photos, files, details, not erasing the truth, overwriting it? You stare at the clock again. It's ticking the right way now, but in your mind, time's still peeling backward, and at the center of it, the man who listens, because that's what killers do when they're patient. They wait for the world to build the wrong story around them. Then, They slip quietly into the pages. The locker with no name. You find it on your lunch break. Locker 314. Down a forgotten hallway in the basement level of the courthouse, past rusted water fountains and fluorescent lights that hum like dying bees. The kind of hallway no one walks unless they're lost or hiding something. The key fits. Of course it does. Inside one object, wrapped in a navy blue handkerchief, folded with the care of a priest dressing the dead. You unfold it slowly. A cassette tape, labeled only with one word. Before, you don't have a player. Not here. But that word sticks with you like a cough that won't come. Before what? Before the murder? Before the trial? Before you got involved? You slip the tape into your coat pocket and close the locker. But just as you're about to leave, something else catches your eye. Scratched into the inside of the locker door. Only the guilty listen twice. You feel cold in your bones now. This was left for someone specific. Was it meant for you or for him? Back upstairs. The judge calls recess early. No reason given. Just tells the jury to return after lunch. You watch as juror 3 lingers in the hallway. Not heading for food. Not heading outside. He doubles back toward the stairs. Toward the basement. You get out fast. You make a call an old college friend who works in the city library system. Find me a tape player. You whisper, something I can hide in a coat pocket. Why, they ask. Because someone gave me something they weren't supposed to. An hour later, you're sitting in your car, parked 2 blocks from the courthouse, tape deck humming, click, whir, hiss, then a voice. Not a recording, a confession, male, calm, unhurried, not the defendant's voice. You'd recognize that now. No, this voice is older, dry, patient, and it starts like this. You're probably wondering why I'm letting you hear this. It's because people forget sound is truth. They trust what they see. Blood, wounds, tears, but sound. It tells you what happened after they looked away. You lean in closer. The voice goes on. Describes a meeting, a hallway, a woman's scream, a broken watch on the floor. She said my name before she fell. That's how I knew it wasn't done right. Victims aren't supposed to know. That defeats the point. You pause the tape. Your hands are shaking. You rewind. Listen again. She said my name, but there's static over it. You can't make out the name. Deliberate, masked, but the phrasing, the cadence, it matches him. Juror 3, no doubt now. You let the tape play on. It ends with a whisper. This won't help you. You're already part of the story now. You stare at the dashboard for a long time, then drive back in silence. Back in deliberation. He's already seated. Notebook open. And something new. A paperclip bent into the shape of a question mark. He holds it between 2 fingers, spins it once, then sets it down in front of you like a calling card, and says nothing, because he doesn't have to. He knows you listened. He knows you rewound it. He knows you're guilty now too. The witness who never testified. She's not on the roster, not the witness list, not the defense subpoena sheet, not the prosecution schedule, but you remember her name, Camille Brenner. She appeared in an early briefing, the kind that vanishes once the narrative tightens. Unreliable, they called her. Too emotional, too inconsistent. The kind of witness who gets buried beneath cleaner timelines. But someone tried to bury her completely. You find her through a slip in the digital files, a police form that shouldn't be there anymore. An initial statement, only record. Camille Brenner, apartment 2C, same building as the victim, 4 doors down. She claimed to hear 2 voices arguing the night of the murder. One male, one familiar male. You think I'm not already inside this, the voice had said, followed by a scream. Then silence. But Camille never made it to the stand because she disappeared the week before jury selection. You don't want to believe it. You want to pretend maybe she moved. Maybe she gave up on the justice system. But her mailbox is still full, and her lights are off, and her voicemail just repeats. This inbox is no longer receiving messages. When you ask the clerk for her subpoena record, they pretend not to hear the name. You press. The clerk lowers their voice and says, "Off the record." She backed out, said someone told her not to testify, said he was one of you. You don't ask what that means, because you already know. Back in deliberation, the others are arguing the timeline, how the blood splatter doesn't match the weapon, how the phone call from the defendant's apartment pinged off a different tower. But you're staring at Juror 3 again, because he's tracing a line in his notebook over and over, like a map, like a spiral with no exit. You lean over and whisper, "Camille, what did you say to her?" He doesn't look up, just replies. Some people talk until they're disappeared. Some get lucky and only vanish on paper. You pause, then ask, "And the others?" He looks at you then, eyes cold as courtroom tiles. They end up jurors. Your hands clench beneath the table. You write one word in your own notebook. Trap. Not for him, for you. Because you realize now you weren't selected at random. You were invited by him and Camille. She was the test run. You think back to the taped confession. You're part of the story now. You look at Juror 3 and wonder, is he waiting for you to vanish next, or for you to decide which way the story ends? The verdict he already wrote. The foreman clears his throat. We take the final vote tomorrow. You watch the room like you're watching the edge of a cliff crumble. One more step, and no one climbs back. 9 votes for guilty, 2 uncertain, 1 quiet. You and him. Juror 3 hasn't spoken all day. Not in deliberation, not during the closing arguments. Just sat there, twirling a pencil between his fingers, the same pencil he used to draw spirals, to mimic other people's handwriting, to take notes in ink that somehow never stains his hands. After everyone leaves, you linger, pretend to forget your coat, and that's when you see it. Tucked beneath his seat cushion, a folded sheet of paper, typed, double-spaced, court heading at the top, final verdict, guilty, every juror name, already typed out, each signature space left blank except yours. Yours is signed, not forged, accurate, identical, yours, down to the hesitation curve in the Y, down to the ink blot you left 2 nights ago while writing your own journal. You grab the paper and turn to confront him, but he's already standing behind you, calm, like he was never sitting in the first place. "I hoped you'd find it," he says. You don't move, don't breathe. He steps closer. "I wasn't always a juror. Once. I was the one testifying, then the one watching. Now I'm the one shaping what stays remembered." You clench the paper in your fist. "You forged this," he smiles faintly. "Not forged, just anticipated." You lunge to tear it apart. He doesn't stop you. He just whispers, "Truth is what they believe," after the gavel drops. You storm out. You don't sleep. You don't go home. You go to the tape again. Listen for something you missed. And this time, you hear it. A creak, a voice yours, in the background, muffled, afraid, complicit. Because the confession wasn't just a monologue, it was a conversation, and you were in it, maybe not as a killer, but as a listener, someone who knew something, someone who stayed silent. You knew. but pretended you didn't. Your own voice, now twisted, says, "We can't stop it. Not now. Not like this." You pause the tape. Your reflection in the rearview mirror doesn't blink because deep down you remember it all. Not the murder, not the moment, but the deal, the exchange. You were offered something before this trial ever started. A role, a seat, a second chance to forget your past by sentencing someone else for theirs. And Juror 3, he's just the mirror, the one who remembers when you tried to forget. You crumple the verdict, but you know it's already been printed again, signed again, filed again, because the story doesn't care who's guilty. It only cares who's left. The photograph, that wasn't evidence. It wasn't in the file, not on the projector, not in the detective's slideshow, but you remember it. A photograph, black and white, slightly out of focus, a figure mid-step, head turned away, arm raised like it was waving or warning. You saw it once, in the evidence binder passed around on day 2. Just a flash of it before someone turned the page. You asked about it. The clerk said, "That wasn't meant for you, but now it's back, taped to the inside of your jury locker. No note, just the photo, and one thumbprint in the upper right corner. Not yours, his." You examine it again, closer. It's not the victim, it's not the defendant, it's someone in between. And then you realize what's wrong. There's no timestamp, no tag, no exhibit number, because it was never entered into evidence. It was hidden on purpose, because whoever took it was too close to the crime to testify. You flip the photo over in faint pencil. The story is crooked because the lens was... You recognize the handwriting. Juror 3's again. You confront the court clerk. "What is this?" They glance at it, eyes wide, then drop their voice. "That wasn't supposed to leave the cold room. Who gave it to you?" You don't answer, because what matters now isn't how you got it. It's why. Juror 3 is testing you again, giving you keys, then seeing which doors you'll open. But this time, you get ahead of him. You trace the photo's origin, photographic paper used only by one agency, a forensic lab that closed 5 years ago after an internal scandal. Evidence mishandling. That's where the original case files came from, which means everything in this trial might be tainted, or worse, composed. You bring it up in deliberation. Anyone else think the evidence doesn't line up? Like someone rebuilt the story after the fact. Juror 6 frowns. What are you suggesting? That maybe none of this is what it looks like? That maybe the killer's not on trial? Juror 3 cuts you off, but the story still ends the same. The room falls silent, because now they're watching you, because you're the one talking like the defendant. And that's when you feel it. The trap closing. Juror 3 smiles, says nothing. You check your coat pocket later. There's a second photo now. Same angle, same alley, but this time you're in the frame. Back turned, stepping into shadow. Unmistakable. It's dated 2 weeks before the murder, but you weren't there. Were you? You think back, and you realize you can't remember where you were that night. You told yourself you were home, but no one saw you. No receipts, no calls, no alibi. Just you, alone, the perfect juror. Because a juror who doesn't remember their past can't contradict the future. It was never about the truth. It was about control. And now, you don't know if you're here to convict a killer or to keep the one inside you from being discovered. The clock that ticked too loud. It starts during closing statements. A sound you hadn't noticed before. Tick, tick, tick. At first, you think it's the bailiff's watch, or maybe some old wall clock behind the jury box, but no one else seems to hear it. It grows louder every time Juror 3 speaks. And now, even when he doesn't, like the sound is counting something down or warning you that you're running out of time, you try to ignore it. But in the hallway after session, the ticking follows you through the metal detector, down the stairs, even into the bathroom. That's when you check your own wrist. You don't own a watch, but somehow you're wearing one. An antique, leather strap, brass frame. Its face is cracked. The hands frozen at 11:34. Backwards. It almost spells hell. You rip it off, drop it in the trash, but when you return to your locker, it's there again, ticking, now faster. You shove it in your coat pocket and step outside, hoping the air will clear your head. Instead, you see her, Camille Brenner, across the street, alive, watching. You race toward her, calling her name. She backs away, vanishes into the alley behind the courthouse. You follow, but the alley is empty, except for the watch on the ground, still ticking. Now it's 11:35, 1 minute past, and your phone buzzes, a voicemail, unknown number. You press play. It's Camille. I can't stay long. He knows who's listening. Her voice is shaking. You think the jury's deciding guilt? It's not. It's deciding who walks away clean and who takes the story with them. He's already decided. He always decides, then static. You replay it. The ticking is louder this time. You rewind again. But now, there's another voice layered under hers. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Back in deliberation, you stare at the other jurors. Juror 8 is sleeping. Juror 5 is texting under the table. Only Juror 3 watches you. And on the table in front of him, the same watch, still cracked, still ticking. You whisper across to him. What happens when it hits midnight? He doesn't blink. He just tilts his head and says, then the story resets. Someone else gets to play the part you wasted. That's how it works. You either shape the story or you become the silence between sentences. You want to scream. Instead, you reach into your coat pocket. The watch is gone. Nowhere. But the ticking is louder than ever. From inside you, from the back of your skull, like a countdown to forgetting. Or maybe to remembering what you helped cover up years ago. You stagger to your locker. The photograph is still there. But now, a second version is taped behind it. A different timestamp. A second angle. This time, Camille isn't blurred. She's looking straight into the lens, straight into your eyes, like she's known all along that you weren't just a juror. You were the witness who didn't speak when it counted. And now, you're counting down to silence again. Tick, tick, tick. You wonder, will you find justice or just another story to vanish into the note you didn't write, but meant it's folded into your notebook, tucked between your deliberation notes and the court instructions. You don't remember writing it, but the paper smells like your pen, and the words, they're in your voice. 3 sentences. He knows who I am. I remember the first time now. This isn't the first trial, just the first time I noticed. You stare at the last line. The ink is slightly smeared, like you wrote it in a hurry, or under duress. You flip the page, blank, but the indentation from the note bleeds through like a whisper in braille. You hold it to the window light. There's something else, a faint sketch, a symbol. It looks like a blindfold, or a noose, or a figure 8 turned sideways, an infinity of guilt. You pocket the note and step into the hallway. The bailiff nods at you. Everything all right? You nod back, even though you feel your stomach unraveling knot by knot. In the bathroom, you splash your face. but the mirror doesn't reflect what it should. Your reflection lags 2 full seconds behind, and when it finally moves, it blinks with someone else's eyes. You stumble back. You remember that look. You've seen it before, in courtroom sketches, in case files with the word redacted stamped across them. Eyes of people who smiled when the sentence was read, because they already knew what came next. Back in deliberation, you speak. We need to pause this. Something's not right. Some of the evidence is fabricated. Juror 4 shakes his head. We've been over this. No. You say, I've seen evidence that wasn't submitted. Photographs, messages, voices. Juror 3 chimes in. Soft but precise. Careful. Obsession with anomalies is often how the guilty distract themselves. You turn to him. Why do you know the defendant's handwriting? He doesn't flinch. Because I taught him how to forge. The room stills. Then Juror 6 laughs nervously. You're joking, right? Juror 3 shrugs. But what if I wasn't? You reach for your notebook. Heart thudding. The note is gone. In its place, another folded paper. This one typed. Only 2 words. Nice try. You snap your head toward him. Juror 3 taps his pencil twice, takes out the watch, sets it down in front of you. 11:57. The ticking is faster now. You close your eyes. Try to focus. Try to remember what this trial really is. And then you see it. Not a murder, a replacement. Someone isn't on trial to be judged. They were being erased, removed from record. Story rewritten by those who control the script. The defendant isn't the point. The jury is. You are. You always were. Because if the wrong person is convicted, the right one disappears without question. You open your eyes. Tick, tick, tick. And then, from the depths of memory, you recall the real first time, a hallway, a scream, blood that didn't belong to you, but followed you anyway. A man in a suit telling you, this will go away if you follow instructions. That man, he's sitting next to you, Juror 3, and he's still waiting for you to play your part. The rehearsal, you didn't know. You attended deliberation is paused. Someone's requested a recess. You don't ask who, it doesn't matter, because the play is already in motion, and you finally understand this isn't your first time in this room. It's a repetition, a script with shifting names, but fixed endings. The courtroom is a stage, and you're not the audience. You're the actor who forgot their lines. You leave the jury box, heart pounding. You need proof that what you're remembering isn't madness. You slip into the clerk's archive room. You've seen it once before. In a dream? Or was it a warning? It's quiet, too quiet. You scan the old case files, hands trembling, and then you see it state, Burris, Reynolds, 2017. The same courtroom, same presiding judge, same layout, different names. You open the file and freeze. A jury photo. 12 faces, 11 unfamiliar. 1 is you. Older suit, different haircut, same eyes, same hesitation in your posture. You flip the page. Transcript excerpt. Juror 9. The story doesn't feel real. Juror 3. Real is what we rehearse enough times. You slam the folder shut. It's not just a trial. It's a ritual. You've been here before. Maybe 5 years ago. Maybe 100. And each time, you forgot. That's what the ticking was. The reset. You rush out, back toward the deliberation room, clutching the file. But the hallway is different now. Longer, darker. The lights flicker. The courtroom door is ajar. Inside, the jury sits silent. All except Juror 3, standing at the head of the table, speaking lines, but not to the others. To you, he turns without surprise, as if he felt your return like a breeze. You always come back when you remember the script. You throw the file on the table. What is this? He lifts a single page. A cast list. 12 roles. 1 blank. Narrator. He slides it to you. This time, you're the one telling the story. I never agreed to this. You snap. He smiles. You did. The first time you chose silence, the watch ticks on the table. 11:58. You can end it, he says. You hesitate. By voting guilty, he shakes his head. No. By remembering who you were before you became the juror. The courtroom pulses around you like a breathing thing. You turn the page. At the bottom, scrawled in your handwriting, everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. And underneath, it was never about the truth. It was about control. The gavel echoes in your mind. You back away. But the wall is closer than before. There's no exit. Only the verdict. Only the reset. Only you. You ask him the question that's been burning through every moment. Who was really on trial? Juror 3's eyes gleam in the low light. You were the verdict. You can't remember reaching you. You sit in your chair. The others return one by one, filing in like ghosts with names you don't trust. Juror 3 is last. He closes the door gently, like sealing a tomb. The foreman clears his throat. It's time to reach a decision. Voices murmur, some tired, some indifferent. You raise your hand. There's something wrong with the evidence. It's been rewritten. Juror 5 leans forward. Rewritten by who you hesitate. By us. The room stills. The light buzzes above you. That same fluorescent hum that makes your skin itch. You look at your notes, but they're blank. You flip through them again. The ink has disappeared. The edges of the paper curl, like they've been burned from within. You look up. Juror 3's eyes are on you. You brought this in, he says, lifting a black leather-bound book. Its pages crackle as he opens it. The diary, the one from the defendant's apartment. But that's not possible. It was sealed in evidence. He reads aloud. I watched them lie under oath. I smiled when they chose the wrong man. I knew one day I'd sit among them, and I'd be the one telling the truth. He pauses, looks at you. Recognize your voice. You shake your head, but your breath is short, shallow, because that voice, it could be yours. And then, tick, tick, tick. The courtroom clock reads 11:59. Juror 3 passes you the diary. You flip through the pages. Handwriting shifts. Styles change. Ink darkens, then fades. But the message is consistent. You've been here before. Each verdict, another layer of forgetting. Each trial, a rehearsal to test what you do when you remembered. Your hand stops on a torn page near the back. It reads, verdict, guilty, but not of what they think. Underneath, a scribbled signature. It's yours, not forged, not copied. Yours. The gavel slams in your memory. The judge's voice echoes through your head. Let the record show. The jury has reached a unanimous decision. You rise from your seat, mouth dry. The foreman asks, do we all agree? Juror 1 guilty. Juror 2 guilty. Juror 4 guilty. And so on. Each voice, another nail, until only one remains. Yours. You open your mouth, but before you speak, Juror 3 slips a folded note into your palm. You open it beneath the table. One line. Whatever you say next becomes the truth. You look around the room, the photograph in your locker, the ticking watch, the erased memories, Camille's message. The verdict isn't about the man in the defendant's chair. It's about whether you're still willing to lie. You close your eyes and whisper, innocent. The room doesn't move. For a long breath, it's as if nothing changes. Then Juror 3 stands, smiling, like he knew you'd say it, because this was the real test. And the clock behind him chimes softly. Midnight. The mistrial that was never called. Midnight hits, and everything should end. But it doesn't. Instead, it resets, softly, quietly, like a breath being held. The courtroom lights don't flicker, but the shadows change. Juror 3 nods once. Then he speaks, not to the room, but to you. You just unraveled the story. Now you have to live outside of it. You want to ask what that means, but your voice stays stuck behind your teeth, because deep down, part of you already knows. The judge walks in, but it's not the same judge. Not quite. The robe fits wrong. The face is too smooth, too symmetrical, like someone tried to remember what a judge should look like. You glance at the jury. Juror 8 is now Juror 5. Juror 2 is someone you don't recognize at all. The order is scrambled, but they act like it's always been that way. You check your notebook again. This time, a single page. Handwritten. Yours. Mistrial initiated. Sequence fracture occurred. Do not speak the verdict out loud. Below that, a symbol. The sideways figure 8. Again, you whisper across to Juror 3. This isn't real. He smiles, shrugs. It never was. But now you see it. You said this was about the truth. No. I said it was about control. You just assumed that meant truth was a factor. The judge clears their throat. Deliberation has ended. Is the jury ready to read the verdict? Foreman nods. You stand again, compelled by muscle memory. Before the foreman speaks, you interrupt. This jury is compromised. Gasps echo. The judge stares at you. Excuse me, I motion for a mistrial. The judge's eyes flicker. For just a second, they change colors. Denied, they say. We've already moved past the point of doubt. You scan the faces again. Some of them aren't blinking. Some don't cast shadows. Some aren't even breathing. You take a step back. This isn't deliberation. This is performance. Every trial, every case, just another iteration in a long line of stories fed to the world like justice, while the real machinery turns beneath the stage. You weren't chosen to serve. You were inserted to see what you do when given power, memory, guilt, and the chance to rewrite it. You look to Juror 3. You were never a juror. No, he says, I'm just here to remind people what they were supposed to forget. And what am I? He taps the diary. You're the only one who ever tells the truth. The judge slams the gavel. Final vote. The foreman turns. All eyes on you. The room falls to silence. The clock ticks. You hold the diary tight. You don't speak. You refuse. And for the first time, the verdict isn't read. The lights cut out. Only the ticking remains. And a voice in your head, cold and clear. You broke the story. Now let's see if it breaks you back. The confession that wasn't yours to make. The courtroom is gone, replaced by silence and shadow. You stand alone in a space that smells like cold metal and old smoke. The diary is still in your hand, but the pages are blank again. Not white, black, as if the words had been burned from the inside out. You call out, Juror 3, nothing, but there's movement behind you. A flicker like static, like memory trying to reform itself. Then a desk appears, old, scratched oak, a single lamp. A voice recorder sits in the center, red light blinking. You press play. Your voice crackles from the tape. March 14th, day 6 of observation. He doesn't recognize me yet. A pause. I think he thinks he's just a juror. Another pause. Then, if you're hearing this, you passed the first trial. Now comes the second. You rewind. Rewind again. But the words change on the third play. You were never supposed to hear this version. But then, you weren't supposed to survive the last one either. You back away from the desk, breathing fast. The black pages of the diary begin to glow, words etching themselves in faint red. Trial 198. Complete. Subject self-aware. Extraction window open 0132. You don't understand, but you do. Because deep inside, beneath the rehearsals and resets, something was buried. The original case, the real crime, the one they've rewritten so many times, no one remembers the names anymore. Except you. You remember the blood under your fingernails, the scream in the stairwell, the phone call you weren't supposed to make. You remember standing over the real killer and choosing to say nothing. And someone, somewhere, made that choice useful. They built a machine out of it, one powered by guilt and silence and stories retold, and they made you its engine. You stumble into the next room, a wall of glass, dozens of monitors, on each screen a courtroom, a different trial, different faces, same clock, same watch. You, over and over, juror, foreman, bailiff, defendant. You were everyone, and you never noticed. You reach for the glass, your hand passes through. A final monitor flares to life. It's your current trial. The courtroom flickers like film reel burn, and on the bench sits Juror 3, now wearing the black robe. He looks directly into the camera, into you. He lifts the gavel and says, "If the story can't be rewritten, then the witness must be." The red diary glows hotter. Tick, tick, tick. You whisper, "What do I do?" from the monitor. Your own voice answers, "Tell the truth." Even if no one's listening, especially then. And just like that, you start to speak. And for the first time, you say it all. The truth that changed its shape. The moment you begin to speak, the air tightens, like the space around you doesn't want to hear it, like truth has gravity and everything else resists. You say the name, the one buried under years of retellings, erased reports, staged verdicts. Ronan Beckett. You didn't just watch him die. You didn't just lie on the stand. You gave the lie shape. You gave it a name. And the machine took it as gospel. The monitors shudder. Each courtroom flickers frozen in different moments. The gavel raised. The accused weeping. A jury. Still, you keep talking. About the silence you chose when you could have stopped it. About the story you helped build by omission. You say you knew, but pretended you didn't. The lights above dim with every word. Pages in the black diary turn on their own, glowing red, then white, then vanishing. You glance up. A single monitor still plays. Your trial. Now looping. Juror 3 stands at the bench again, but this time, there's something different in his eyes. Almost fear. You lean closer. He speaks only now. It's not to the room. It's to the camera. We don't need a confession. We need a continuation. Then he slams the gavel. The word guilty scrolls across the monitor. Except it doesn't stop at one word. The screen glitches, stutters, then begins typing outlines, as if transcribing from a place you can't see. The witness spoke. The witness remembered. The trial ends where it began, behind you. The courtroom reforms, not the false one, the original. No jury box, no audience, just one chair in the center, and the figure you saw once before, back in the file room, slumped, eyes glassy. Ronan. He looks up at you, smiles faintly. You finally made it. You shake your head. I'm not supposed to be here, but you are. And now it's your turn. You hesitate. For what? He nods toward the diary in your hand. To write the ending. The pages are blank again, but your pen is already moving. Each word is a crack in the machine. Each truth you write burns through the lie that held it in place. You write, everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. But even control can be broken. As the last word appears, the chair across from you is empty. Ronan is gone, but not erased, released, because someone finally told his story without redacting the soul of it. The room begins to collapse around you, not destructively cleanly, like a curtain call, like a stage being cleared. The diary closes itself in your hand. On the cover, a new title testimony, and beneath that, your name, the verdict that never reached the court. You walk through the final doorway, not a door. Exactly, just a thinning in the dark. On the other side, silence. Not courtroom silence, real silence. No ticking clocks, no voices behind walls, no looping monitors, just the sound of your own breath. You hold the diary tight. It's no longer cold, no longer pulsing with red light or secrets. Just paper, ink, memory. The space you're in is circular walls of black stone, a single chair at its center. But there's no judge, no jury, only you. A mirror rests against the far wall. You approach, and what looks back isn't exactly you. Same eyes, same frame, but not quite the same face. Worn, hollowed, changed by the act of remembering, by truth spoken aloud when silence was safer. This version of you lifts its hand when you do, but the reflection smiles first, then speaks. Now, do you understand why you were chosen? You don't reply. It speaks again. You were the only one who asked the right question. You remember it now. Not what happened, but why it was buried. Not who they framed, but who they feared would tell the real story. You never needed to be part of the jury. You were supposed to be part of the cover-up. But somewhere along the way, something cracked. A phrase, a glance, a single heartbeat that didn't sync with the rest. You felt it. You followed it. And now, you've arrived where few ever do. Past the script, past the verdict, into the room where endings are rewritten before the ink dries. You sit in the chair. The diary opens to its final page. A single sentence glows faintly. Verdict, not guilty. But underneath that, new text appears in your handwriting. Story incomplete. Your reflection nods in approval, because you know now verdicts can be forged, but stories endure. You close the diary, and for the first time, you don't vanish. You stay, you breathe, you exist beyond the trial, and that, maybe, is the most dangerous truth of all. The ending. They tried to erase you. Sit in the stillness, but the world begins to move, not with sound, with remembrance. The diary pulses once in your hands, then stops. Its cover no longer reads testimony. Now it says only evidence. You rise. Each step forward peels away another layer of the courtroom illusion. The robes, the gavel, the cold metal benches, gone. Now you see what was always beneath it all. Stacks of unfiled reports, tape recorders gathering dust, unsent subpoenas, and one forgotten folder marked "Do Not Archive." You open it. Inside a photograph, cracked, water damaged. Camille Brenner, alive, eyes defiant. On the back, scrawled in red, She saw the jury, all of them, and she knew one of them didn't belong. You turned the photo over again. There, behind Camille, reflected in a window pane, Juror 3, out of place, out of time, out of frame. You understand now he's not a man, he's a pattern, a loop, a presence that exists in every mistrial, every quiet cover-up, every twisted verdict. He's the reason justice feels like a haunted house. You open the final drawer of the filing cabinet and find a key, small, iron, cold, etched with one word, exit. You pocket it, not to escape, to protect it, because the next trial might need it. You glance at the mirror one last time, but it doesn't show you anymore. It shows a courtroom, half empty, a new jury forming, and one chair waiting to be filled by someone who still thinks stories are harmless. You leave the room without fanfare. The walls dissolve behind you like smoke. Outside, rain falls again. Street lamps buzz and blink. A woman walks by with her collar upturned. She clutches a brown envelope. You don't stop her, but you watch carefully, because maybe she's a witness, or maybe she's the story, or maybe, just maybe, she's the one who rewrites it all. You light a cigarette, turn away from the courthouse, and whisper to yourself, this time they'll hear everything.